This afternoon, I'd like to talk to you about automatic milking systems and the best management and milking practices in particular. I think that's a very timely topic, as across Canada we're seeing a big increase in the number of farms adopting automatic milking systems, with about 17% of the farms in Canada currently using this type of automation. Certainly in some provinces it's higher, but on average that's what it's being shown as by recent numbers. It's certainly a big increase that continues to grow year after year, and I think in the future as well. I think one of the key things when we talk about milk quality it is this gentleman's statement, Mr. Tom Wall out of Wisconsin: milk comes from cows, but quality actually comes from people. And I think we have to really pay attention to that statement, because it's how you use the technology, how you manage your operation, that will continue to determine the quality of milk that is produced on your farm. Over 20 years ago, one of the first presentations I saw on milk quality as produced by herds using automatic milking systems was from Denmark, and it was done and presented at the National Mastitis Council, and presented not a rosy picture at the time. The good news is that in Denmark, that is about 10 years ahead of us, in my opinion, in adopting this technology. Today, they would consider milk quality produced with automatic milking systems equivalent as to the general milk quality of the whole industry. That's good and encouraging. I'm not sure that we're there yet in Canada. I think we have a little bit of work to do. I think issues are a little too common, but I am confident that as we move forward and everybody learns, both at the farm level and the dealer level and consultants and veterinarians, I think we'll all learn the lessons that have been learned to a great extent in Europe, that we can improve milk quality on certain problem farms as it pops up. One of the things that's become evident in Canada, and this is a look at the somatic cell count on herds that have milk recording by region: Atlantic, Quebec, Ontario, out Western Canada, and Canada as a whole, is that somatic cell count's not a big issue. Most farms that use automatic milking systems produce a cell count that's equivalent to the general population. Of course, there'll be individual problems, but by and large, it's fairly similar. Some higher, some lower, and the difference in every region is not great. So that's the good news story. It's been bacteria counts and added water that are continue to add up to little bits of concerns in various jurisdictions. So these are companies that are currently retailing automatic milking systems in Canada. In the lower right-hand corner, the SAC and Incitec is actually one company with two different brands, but Lely is the biggest name, followed by DeLaval and Gia and Bomatic. Fullwood is a new player here, a British company, currently with one dealer that I know of in Manitoba, but certainly a player. Additional to this would be the Tystal unit that was developed in Quebec and is originally based on the Lely platform, but is now working on the Fullwood platform and working together with Fullwood, being used in Tystal. We only see about a little over 100 farms using the Tystal milking robots, but and mostly in Quebec and several in Ontario, and perhaps one or two in other provinces, but that's about it at this point in time. I think, and in the world, these names are the same. It's pretty well and the same ratio of market share as well. So these are the two companies that prep cows, cleaning teats using brushes. And this is the Lely brush being shown, but both Lely and Fullwood utilize brushes, as well as obviously the Tystal robot that was based on originally Lely and now Fullwood. So getting cows clean is important, and of course you have to start with clean brushes. That's an obvious thing. These brushes are obviously overdue, losing some bristles and having too much material in the brushes. Not going to get clean teats with these, that's for sure. Certainly the maintenance of these brushes is critical to getting those teats clean. We also need to start with clean cows, because, you know, if this cow walks into a parlor, we spend more time on her, we clean her, we get her absolutely as clean. At this point in time, the technology doesn't recognize dirty teats, even though that's a distinct possibility in the future. Basically, it just looks at this cow as a cow and it preps her the same as any other cow. So we need to start with clean cows. That's the take-home message. Tails can also become entangled in those brushes, so we certainly have to pay attention to that, and that's a maintenance thing on herds, keeping those tails nice and clean. And of course, keeping the hair on the teats and udders clean and short, so that this creates a lot of problems in that it holds moisture and dirt, but it also can confuse the robot at times for attachment, in that it may not find the teats as quickly and in as fast a time and without attaching to the base of the udder, perhaps. These companies would prep cows using wash cups, and which is more common, I guess, with these 4 brands. And the big question is always, which is better? And this was a nice study that was done in Finland in 2012, and it compared 5 levels of cleanliness before and after. And the take-home message from here is that animals that came in that were clean or almost clean, it didn't really matter which system prepped these cows. We got teats really clean and did a good job on. I think that's the take-home message. We need to start with clean teats, which will give us the best results independent of the system we have. Group A is wash cups. Group B are brushes. So by and large, they're very, very similar in the top 2 categories. A slight difference when cows are slightly dirty. Perhaps cups do a little better job when cows are a little dirtier, but I don't think that's where the message is. Emphasize clean cows, it will do a good job. That's the bottom line. We can judge how good a job these systems are prepping cows in a number of ways, but a nice simple way is just take some gauze and rub over the teats just prior to teat cup attachment. This is a system that we've used in parlors for years. It's quick and dirty, and it'll tell us the job that's being done on teat ends, which is so critical along the way. We can swab teats. We can take samples from the bacteria that's left on teats and do a lot of analysis that requires lab work. But this simple gauze method is a pretty good cow side method that can be done by a technician or your herd vet or someone of that nature who can do an evaluation of how good a job is being done on your farm. Again, we need to emphasize cows that are clean, dry, and comfortable, which has been the mantra of the dairy industry for the last 20 years. We need to emphasize clean, dry, comfortable cows. And if we do that, we'll get a good job done. I think the best example of proper stall sizing can be information that can be found on the Dairyland Initiative website that's sponsored by the University of Wisconsin. I think you should look for that information. It's available through your vets if you can't find it. If you Google the Dairyland Initiative, I'm sure it'll come up. That is now an open website. It used to be you needed a password from the company or sign up, and there was a cost. But due to money that's been donated, it's a free access site at this point. And for me, it's some of the best information available on proper stall sizing, proper housing options for dairy cows on alley widths and sloping and lots of other good things. Evaluation of cow cleanliness is always important. And this also can be done by your herd vet or someone that's independent and in the industry. When you look at your cows, you don't see the differences or you don't always compare them. And it's a real good exercise on a yearly basis, is to assess cow cleanliness, or after you've made a major change in stalls or bedding type or something of that nature. I think it's a good way to evaluate if you're getting the job done, or if any further tweaking with bedding management or bedding additions, stall maintenance, stall sizing is needed. We need cows to be in that category 1 and 2, very, very clean on average. And I think 80% should fall in those categories. This chart is very available on the Canadian Mastitis and Milk Quality website, and is available in an app form as well as a paper hard copy, as you see here. Because we need cows to be clean, because, as I said, things happen. We don't always hit teats. It's a automated system. Not so bad if the udder is as clean as this, but if we get teats and udders that aren't quite as clean, this can really add to a bacteria count problem. With milking procedures, it's a very important step that suddenly becomes automated, and you have a chance to do it on a consistent basis, but the cow hasn't changed. So we need to prep cows in a way to get good letdowns and to provide clean teats. Those are the two goals, to have her stimulated so that she's ready to give the milk to you once the unit's attached, and that unit to go on a clean, dry teat. And that's a very critical part. The oxytocin letdown process hasn't changed, but I see it as a very common problem, that the game now is to try and attach units as quick as we can. And while that may or may not result in a compromise on milk quality due to the bacteria being left on the teats, it commonly is the unit being attached to cows that don't let their milk down properly. I think it's so common. We see the results sometimes with improperly prepped cows that the teat ends become rough, because we see a lot of bimodal milk letdown. We see the second letdown, as some people call it, where she gives you some milk and then it stops. The unit may or may not be taken off at that point because the machine thinks she stopped milking. But also, it may just lay on the teat and create stress on the teat as no milk flow is happening. A couple of companies have looked at this, and this is a Lely study that was done that looked at bimodal. You see 4 quarters being tested here, and the quarter in the lower left-hand corner shows bimodal, which means it had a flow, and then it stopped flowing, and then it started flowing again as the cow got stimulated and let her milk down. This is a very important issue that I think we need to pay a lot of attention to. I think we can really do a better job of prepping and attaching cows to improve milk letdown, but also the efficiency of the whole box process. The results of their study is they looked at 26 farms in 6 countries, close to 5,000 cows, over 800,000 milkings over 80 days. 22% of the cows originally had greater than 10% bimodal milking. That's a significant number. They added just 8 seconds of additional brushing time. 8 seconds to each quarter. That was all that was done. Sorry, that was to the udder in total. And what they got was a reduced bimodality, less dead milking time, which is a parameter that Lely uses. Average milking speed was increased, and bottom line, the milk yield per box increased. We took a little more time to prep these cows, which probably resulted in the teats being cleaner, but we got more milk out of those cows in a shorter period of time because they had a really good letdown. That's good for the cow, that's good for you, because that frees up box time that you possibly can milk another cow or two over the day. I think that's the goal. We really improve the efficiency if we can add a little bit of time to get teats clean and optimize udder prep for reducing box time. Scoring those teat ends is a really good factor that may lead us to look at this udder prep and takeoff settings. I think it's, again, from the Canadian Milk Quality website, we can get this chart. This also should be done at least yearly or more often if it's a concern and changes are made. We have to look at those teats. The best time to do it is just as the unit comes off. That can create a really long day because it's one cow at a time in many farms using automatic milking systems. And so it's not as easy as in a parlor, but it's a very important job. Again, done by a nice trained third party, such as your veterinarian. I think we can do this. Again, an app is available for this, or you can use the paper copies that we see here. It's best to do it right after the teat cup comes off because there's both long-term problems on the teat ends, hyperkeratosis, or there's short-term problems. Teats off, color a little bit, teats misshapen slightly that then return to normal after a few minutes. These tell us certain things about the equipment settings, the udder prep, the liner, various functions that then we can then make changes or tweaks to improve. I think it's a very important exercise that should be done on minimum once a year. Teat dipping is one of the gold standard things we do in milk quality. All the teat dips that we use are tested and with the goal of reducing new infections by 50%, which is the most important thing we can do in milk quality. And continues to be a very important factor in both improving skin condition or maintaining good skin condition and reducing new infections. And dipping, as we see here, is done so well and nicely as what we've been used to, but we don't commonly see as good a job done with many robotic systems. Some are approaching this kind of coverage, but many aren't. So we need to look at and judge that. A simple test that we can do is just to wrap a nice piece of clean paper, white paper towel around the teat, which will tell us the pattern, spray pattern that's happening. Again, should be done on a regular basis. So the take-home messages: cow cleanliness, it's critical. And if you don't emphasize that, no machine's going to overcome the problems that dirty cows creates. We've got 6 manufacturers that all can do a good job for us. Here in Atlantic Canada, I have 4 different manufacturers I work with regularly, and I have examples of all 4 of those brands that are producing top quality milk. It's not the brand, it's what you do on the farm with the equipment that you have and the things and the management decisions you make. These units aren't plug and play. You need to tweak them, you need to measure them, you need to look at them, because equipment maintenance and analysis, not just maintenance, but analysis, some of the things we talked about in the last few minutes, is critical. And lots of existing milk quality tools to indicate whether there's an issue or not. Not just your Bacta scan, but there are other numbers to look at, such as cell counts, perhaps other tests that can be done, like a coliform count or a lab pasteurization count. These are tests that can provide us information of things that are working well or things that need to be addressed. Thanks very much for your time. All the best till next.